The alien city of Verksera was a sight to behold, a dazzling metropolis of sleek silver towers that seemed to hum with an energy unknown to human civilization. The air was thick with a strange, heady scent, the scent of alien pheromones, which mingled with the subtle vibrations of the planet's vast magnetic fields. To most, the city would be overwhelming. But for Ambassador David Calloway, this was merely another diplomatic mission. A tall, broad-shouldered man in his 40s with short-cropped dark hair, David had seen his fair share of alien worlds. His job was to represent humanity in the Intergalactic Council, a diplomatic envoy sent to ensure peace and trade agreements between the various species. It wasn't easy, especially when dealing with the Xhyrani, a species that had always been rumored to be ruthless and unpredictable. The Xhyrani were a fierce, warlike race known for their pheromone-based communication and combat strategies. They were ruled by an ironclad monarchy, with their highest-ranking soldiers serving as royal guards. Today, David was to meet with the Xhyrani queen and her court, but he knew he'd be facing more than just formalities. Standing before the Grand Palace of Verksera, David adjusted his black suit, a rare thing among humans, designed to block out harmful pheromones and keep his human scent from overwhelming alien senses. As he stepped inside, the palace's high ceilings and shimmering walls seemed to fold inward, focusing all attention on the royal throne at the far end of the grand hall. The Xhyrani guards, towering figures covered in iridescent, scale-like armor, lined the walls. Their eyes glowed with a faint blue light, and their bodies hummed with an energy that only the most attuned could detect. David tried not to let his nerves show. The pheromones of the Xhyrani were notorious for driving other species into a frenzied state, and even the bravest diplomats had fallen prey to them. "Ambassador Calloway," a voice called out, low and menacing. It was the voice of the commander of the Royal Guard, a massive Xhyrani who stood near the throne. His name was Vargoth, and he was said to have the ability to control his emotions and pheromones like no other. David had met Vargoth before. He knew the commander's reputation, unflappable, unyielding, and deadly in battle. Vargoth was the only one who had never been swayed by the intense pheromonal influence of the Queen's court. But David wasn't here for Vargoth. His mission was more complicated. As he approached the throne, the Queen herself, a striking figure with pale, opalescent skin and eyes that shifted colors with every glance, stood and addressed him. "Ambassador Calloway, we welcome you to Verksera. It is an honor to have you here, though I have heard of your unique ability to resist our pheromonal influence." David smiled, knowing what she meant. It wasn't that humans were immune to pheromones, but they didn't react the same way the Xhyrani expected. His species had their own scent, a subtle but potent signal of their individuality. It often interfered with the Xhyrani's attempts to manipulate emotions through scent alone. But that wasn't enough to protect him from what was about to happen. "I appreciate the warm welcome, Your Majesty," David said, keeping his voice steady. "I am here on behalf of the United Earth Coalition to discuss the future of trade and peace between our people." The Queen's smile didn't waver, but her eyes gleamed with something darker. "We have heard your proposals, Ambassador. However, we must first understand you more thoroughly. Your people are unpredictable." She paused, then flicked a finger at one of the royal guards. A slight movement from the guard sent an invisible wave of pheromones flooding the room. It was subtle at first, but it began to build, an invisible pressure that pressed against David's mind. His heartbeat quickened, his body becoming increasingly aware of the alien scent that surrounded him. The air was alive with the pheromonal influence, and it was beginning to overwhelm him. As the pheromones surged, David felt a shift in the atmosphere. The royal guards, usually statuesque in their stoic demeanor, began to move restlessly like creatures caught in a primal frenzy. Their eyes turned wild, their bodies stiffening as they fought against the sensations they were experiencing. David fought to keep his composure. He had been trained for moments like this, but nothing prepared him for the intensity of the Xhyrani pheromones. His muscles twitched, and his mind began to cloud over. The world seemed to twist into a haze of colors and sensations. It was then that he noticed something strange. Amidst the chaos of the guards' frenzied reactions, one figure remained motionless. Vargoth, the commander. Vargoth's eyes were locked on David, and there was no sign of the same agitation that affected the others. Instead, Vargoth's gaze seemed calculating. The commander was unaffected, and as the waves of pheromones crashed around them, David felt something stirring within the Xhyrani commander. A deep recognition, a hint of admiration. "Your pheromones are strong," David gasped, his throat thickening as the chemicals in the air fought for dominance over his senses. The Queen's expression darkened. "You think you can resist us, human? My guards are the strongest in the galaxy. You will bend just as all others have." But David wasn't listening anymore. His focus was entirely on Vargoth. The commander, in the midst of this pheromonal storm, had found something David had not expected. Despite the rising chaos, Vargoth's presence cut through the haze like a clear beacon. David had heard of Xhyrani pheromonal dominance before, but he realized that Vargoth's control wasn't just over his own body, it was over the others as well. With a subtle gesture, Vargoth exhaled a different kind of pheromone, one that carried a sense of calm authority, dampening the frenzy of his fellow guards. The Queen scowled. "Commander Vargoth, what are you doing?" Vargoth stepped forward, his massive frame exuding a sense of calm that seemed to crush the building tension. His voice was a low growl. "You test the ambassador, Your Majesty. But we do not act on impulse or desire. We act on logic and reason. His people will not bow to our will. Perhaps we should learn from them instead." The Queen's eyes widened, and for the first time since David entered the room, she seemed unsure. The pheromones of the Queen's court pulsed in the air, but they no longer had the same effect. David stood tall, breathing deeply, his mind sharpened by the revelation of Vargoth's control. The other guards were starting to settle, their frenzied behavior stilled by the command in Vargoth's pheromonal presence. The battle for influence was no longer a matter of force, but of subtlety and strength of will. David looked directly at the Queen, his voice firm. "Humanity doesn't bend to fear or desire, Your Majesty. We act with purpose. And this mission will succeed, not through dominance, but through mutual respect." The Queen narrowed her eyes. "You think you've won." "I don't think anything," David replied. "I know,